Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Pride in London Live. My name is Asifa Lahore, and I am Britain's first out Muslim drag queen, and I live my life as a transgendered woman. I am thoroughly pleased to be presenting today's topic of discussion, and also the points of view that we're going to raise today. Tonight's discussion is all about being BAME and LGBT. For those of you who do not know, BAME is Black and Asian Minority Ethnic, and we're also known as people of colour. We've got a fine array of panellists tonight, and I'm happy to be introducing them. So first and foremost, we have Hakeem Kazeem, who is the co-founder of Batty Mama. Hakeem, I know what a Batty is, I know what a mama is. What's a Batty Mama?
It is a immersive club night and promotes and pay Black queer artists for their art and promote Black queer creativity.
Yeah. Lovely. Yeah. And where can we find out more about it?
Our social media, so at the Batty Mama on everywhere, at the Batty Mama. at TheBattyMama.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Next, we have the lovely Reeta, who is the founder of Gaysians, and she's also a board member of UK Black Pride. So Reeta, what's a Gaysian?
A Gaysian? I'm a Gaysian. I reckon you're a Gaysian too.
Oh, definitely.
And we got another one. Gaysians is it's a movement of LGBT plus charities, support groups, individuals, activists up and down the UK that support the South Asian community. So we're an alliance essentially of pre-existing organisations, and the reason behind setting up Gaysians was that there are lots of different organisations doing amazing things, but they're working in little pockets, and we're very diverse, so we're the umbrella brand for the collective organisations and individuals.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here, and I really look forward to your contribution.
Pleasure, thank you.
Next on our panel, we have Asha, who is a singer-songwriter and also a producer of Real Queers of London.
Well, Asha, great, and I was on Real Queers. I'm one of the panellists that was on there, but yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter and producer. You can find me Asha Gray Music, ASHERGREYMUIS. So that's not, does that spell it? Yeah. M-U-S-I-C?
M-U-S-I-C.
Anyway, yeah. I play music, I don't spell. But so you can find me on there. I do an array of music, like R&B fusion with loads of different styles I grew up with. That's me, yeah.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Asha.
Thanks,
and last but not least, we have the rather handsome Shahmir Sanni, who is a political campaigner and a whistleblower. Mm-hmm. So who's the best whistle you've blown?
Oh, well, no, thank God. In March, I brought forward information and evidence of there being cheating during the Brexit referendum. And in that process, Number 10 outed me. So they released a press statement saying that I was in a relationship with one of the advisors. So I confused myself, which is total bollocks. Sorry. And so in that process, I was outed. So I had to come out to my family. I had to take security measures in Pakistan for my family there. So there was this whole conundrum of me literally as a South Asian Muslim guy and the only son in the family, and like the sort of eldest son, with all that pressure I had to, I was forced to basically explain to my family that.
Sure. And Shahmir, I'm really looking forward to your contribution and actually some of your personal contributions from your life into this debate. I just also want to reiterate that Pride in London is totally neutral when it comes to politics. But we're not neutral today about speaking about BAME LGBT topics. So let's dive right in. And I want to start with the first question. So is coming out more challenging for people of colour? And if so, what are the challenges? Does religion and cultural pressure stop us from coming out? Hakeem?
Okay. I think it can be. I think I can't really speak for anybody else. I haven't really ever been British Nigerian, but I can speak about being first generation and how I think you do have a basic family, and if you do come out to your family, like my mum, she did think being gay was a white thing, and then therefore you kind of had that she blamed me being British or me being born in London as why I was gay. I think that's a more of a generational cultural thing. I'm not sure if it's harder or not, or if it was harder than anybody else's who wasn't black or Nigerian. Or,
yeah. Reeta, does the black and Nigerian experience that Hakeem talks about, does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it resonates with me. I think that personally, I think it is generally harder. I think there are people that are from other like non-BAME communities that have a really tough time too, and I think there are people within BAME communities that, you know, it is relatively easy. But I think there are many more complex issues with BAME communities, and the people that I speak to, the women that phone me, for example, or the people that phone me and get in contact with Gaysians through the website Gaysians.org, they are often dealing with quite complex situations. So, for example, you know, homosexuality is a criminal offence in, you know, most parts of South Asia, most parts of the Commonwealth, and so that means that we're not seeing examples of ourselves in the Bollywood films that our parents are watching, and that means they're not seeing examples of us, and so it stays as this kind of very small community or something that you're not supposed to talk about. So there are all kinds of taboos that I think come into play, but I think there are a number of challenges, but I think one of the challenges is the fact that it's still a criminal offence in South Asia and in many parts of the world, which has an impact on us. But I think there are many complex issues, loads of different intersections that come into play, for example, religion and gender. So, yeah, I think it is a bit trickier for most people,
Asha, do you think, you know, the fact that homosexuality is criminalised in our heritage countries and our communities sort of look to our home countries, do you think that plays a part in, you know, being LGBT, BAME in Britain today?
Oh, it definitely plays a part. I mean, it's going to be hard anyway, because you got these people coming from these different countries, and we know about how it is there, and it's not accepting, and it's like they feel that they're losing a bit of their heritage if they let certain things go, and if they let like it go, being us being gay or anything, then then they start to cross their boundaries, and they don't really like that. So I think that's where loads of the issue comes in. They just don't want to let go of certain things because they feel like they're letting go of their traditions or letting go of their heritage, when it's not even that. You just don't even understand.
Shahmir, you said, you know, that obviously your coming out was also affected and reached Pakistan as well. How do you think, you know, us being of heritage from, say, countries like Pakistan, India, South Asia, Africa, how do you think that influences our coming out? Is it challenging?
I think it's a totally different ballgame for people of colour, because particularly within sort of Western countries like Britain or the States, because you have to not only deal with the baggage of sort of, you know, the cultural baggage, the religious baggage, but also coming out into an environment that still is working towards accepting you racially. So yeah, I think it's a whole different ballgame for people of color. When it comes, like for me, for example, my family is very liberal, so they obviously it's taken hurdles, but they have my sort of immediate family has sort of accepted me. But with sort of particularly in South Asian communities, it's a lot about what I think. The main sort of cultural taboo is what will others say, like log kya which is, you know, what will the cousins say? Not even the cousins, what will the neighbors say? It just comes down to what people's perceptions of them will be because you are gay, or whatever. So yeah, definitely, I think it's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, thank you for the entire panel for that contribution, and it actually brings us nicely on to our next point. So how can we make sure that people of colour own the conversation about being LGBT+? Does anyone want to go first with something that has suddenly come to them?
I mean, I think it's about just stepping up and doing it. You know, I'm an accidental activist, and I'm doing this because I just spent 20 years being out and not seeing versions of me in the media or even walking down the street, you know. So things are changing, you know. I went through my own journey of trying to find access, information and support and even stories, you know, of people that were like me to feel less alone. And over many years, those stories started to pop up on, you know, blogs that were written in India. And I think now there's a lot more content, and the Gaysians movement is really about giving access to that. But I think it is about people. It's not easy for everybody to come out, and everybody's situation is distinctly different and unique and challenging, you know, to different measures. But I think those of us that are out and those of us that can should. And I think that, people need to, definitely for South Asians, need to step up as far as I'm concerned.
And be unapologetic in the sort of expression of like their identity. I think it's I don't like owning your narrative is like, you have to sort of, I think it just comes out, we're so constantly seeking validation, not just from like our mother, our mama and baba, but also from like our cousins, and then, you know, sort of the mainstream gay society. It's just about like letting go of that kind of, like that's what I've done over the past few months, is like let go of all of those inhibitions and say, I don't need my, not even like I don't need to, I can still love my religion and move and be gay. Like it's about actually making your sexuality and your culture and your religion directly tied, I think, in terms of being people of color. Like you can't just sort of disassociate your sexuality from your racial or cultural identity, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I think that's more empowering. If like a gay Muslim man is conflicted between like loving God and thinking God hates him, and then someone who says to him, actually, God still loves you, you can still be gay. Like that's, like for me, that was liberating, for example. You know? So,
Wow.
Would you ever have like a LGBT Ramadan event or like a...
Well, yeah, who did? I think, was it Iman? Gay Iftar, I was there. Like, you know, there are gay Muslims, for example.
I mean, that would be, my perspective would be, I think we seldom kind of have spaces that intersect with our LGBT identity and sort of queer. I think we just kind of, it's usually either or. I kind of think one of the ways to own our narratives would be to have spaces that combine them or celebrate both of them. Like I really want to do like a Nigerian Independence Day, for example, Batty event, something similar that sort of everybody
like Rainbow Jollof.
Yes.
Nice.
And that does that. I think that's you have to go to where people are. I think sometimes everything is really separate, and then people never get to experience it or to talk about it or to control the spaces.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and I feel that that when it comes to like connecting your heritage with your sexuality, I think like when you just let go and just be you, those things happen naturally as well. Like I can't help that I'm Caribbean. I can't help that I'm black. I can't help that I like men. It all fits in, and through everything that I do and being open and honest, it just connects it all. Like
So obviously us owning our narrative is really important in this. So we've discussed about our narrative and how important it is. How do we raise our visibility? How do BAME LGBT plus people raise their visibility? Reeta, you mentioned the internet and social media.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are tons of ways of doing that. I think, you know, events like Batty Mama, events like Pussy Palace, Babes, you know, there are tons of brilliant things that are happening. You know, I'm publishing director of a magazine called Burnt Roti as well, which focuses on the South Asian community. And, you know, the reason that I joined that business was to help spread, like, just create visibility amongst the South Asian community, because that's where I think our biggest work is in the UK as Gaysians, right? So just making it okay to be out and gay and visibly gay and it be part of my identity is, you know, just something that I'm doing sort of in the spaces that I'm in. But I think going to events and participating, sharing your story, is there are just many, many ways to do it, I think.
I want to add also on a smaller scale as well, because like, I mean, I go out and stuff like that, but there are many times where I just don't get to go out, and there's other people that just generally don't even kind of like those kind of social situations. So I feel like having those one-on-one conversations with people, opening up on a more intimate level and allowing them to see your world a bit more is another way to also raise awareness without it being so grand.
Shahmir, you know, obviously in our community we want to raise visibility, and then there are those people that obviously are scared to, or maybe look for others within the community that are visible and they see them as role models. So what more can those people that are visible, what more can they do?
Well, like, I think I guess in terms of understanding in the public sphere I mean, I can only speak from the political sphere. Like, in terms of British politics, there is this cognitive dissonance towards the experiences of queer people of colour. Because we've legalised same-sex marriage, everyone in Parliament thinks that, regardless of what your political party is, regardless of your politics, thinks that we've sort of moved past the difficulties faced by queer people of colour. But there is, by queer people, sorry. But, so, there needs, I think in terms of public discourse, there does need to be more pressure towards actually not just people but our policymakers and our lawmakers to understand that the problem is still very much there for us. And also owning the fact that actually, you know, we can't be going around to other countries telling them how to behave or that they should legalize homosexuality if we haven't understood the problems that internally we are facing as queer people of color. So I think it's important, but also in terms of like getting it out there, I think it's sort of all of these big organizations, like as someone who's worked in politics, in this day and age and with sort of digital campaigning, the best and most effective way of getting your message across is through digital adverts. Right. It's sort of the illiberal world's biggest weapon with like the alternative right and whatever, and it's also the liberal world's and the progressive world's strongest weapon. There's no better way to get to people than through digital campaigning, than through adverts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, websites. Like if you really sort of want to, that's what I would say organizations, really big organizations to small organizations need to be doing, is focusing on targeted adverts.
Okay, I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here. Okay. Do queer people of colour, would they access these mainstream digital markets?
Well, that's the great thing about it, is that you can, with obviously their permission and with the GDPR, anyway, this whole data debacle, but that's the brilliant thing about it, is that you can target people that aren't even out. You can target a man that, say, has shown interest in something queer, right? But isn't totally out there. Like, for example, when I was in the closet, I would sort of like links that were like, you know, like RuPaul Drag Race memes, for example. You can sort of target those adverts towards, that's the powerful thing about it, is that you can even reach people that aren't out. Instead of just sending it to your own sort of group of people, you can effectively go after that South Asian closet DL dude, you know, that says no face pics, you know, that sort of thing. Like,
do you want to tell the audience what DL means, just in case?
Like on the down low, like, you know, like in the closet. But that's the brilliance of it, right? And that's what actually I think a lot of we're falling behind in that, in terms of where, and the sort of work that we do is excellent and needed, but I think we need to sort of also start focusing on targeted adverts and getting to people that we could never get to before. You know, does that make sense?
Okay, we're just now going to roll a VT and see what's been happening in the world of LGBT news.
Thousands of gay and bisexual men in Scotland will be pardoned after a new law was unanimously passed by the Scottish Parliament. The BBC reports that anyone with a criminal record following consensual same-sex relationships will be able to wipe the slate clean when a bill is certified by the country's government. Sexual activity between men over the age of 21 was illegal in Scotland until 1981. Same-sex relations between women was never criminalised. EU member states must all now recognise the rights of married same-sex couples, even if equal marriage is not yet recognised in the country. The Gay Times told the story of Romanian Adrian Coleman and his American husband Claiborne Robert Hamilton, who after living in the US wanted to move back to Mr. Coleman's home country. Following a 6-year legal battle by the couple, all spouses of EU citizens will now be recognised, allowing them access to employment rights and healthcare. There are currently 6 EU nations that do not recognise equal marriage. Time Out spoke to the founders of the London LGBTQ+ Community Centre. The group are currently crowdfunding £50,000 for the organisation that will give it a permanent home in East London. In the past decade, there has been a 60% fall in the number of LGBTQ venues, and centres like this no longer exist in the capital. The group looks set to hit their target but still needs support ahead of the closing date for the campaign on the 13th of June. And users of Android look set to have gender-neutral emojis in a new software update later this year. Other icons will include lobsters and support for redheads. According to The Verge, Google, who own the mobile software, say the new guidelines state if a gender is not mentioned, then gender-neutral or gender-inclusive display should be used. This means that the default image for family will be gender ambiguous. It follows a similar move by Apple last year.
So we're continuing the discussion on being BAME and LGBT, and we're now moving on to our next point. So I'm going to put this to you, Hakeem. What more can LGBT plus organisations do in terms of their own internal diversity and inclusion?
I think regarding sort of people of colour, I definitely think most organisations need to do more outreach, or at least do more sort of engagement. Like we said, about actually going to events or communities where there either are obviously LGBT people or people might not know they're LGBT, just to say this is a space for queer people. You may or may not be queer, but also tell people just tell people that we exist. I think that's a good way to engage. I also think there's a conversation about access regarding ability. I think there's a lot of spaces that aren't very accessible. I think access can include everything. I think there's a lot of people who aren't going to go out to clubs or aren't going to go out to LGBT groups and things to find them, so schools and skill shares, so people who want a certain skill, certain talent. You kind of need to sort of find people doing that work anyway, people like photographers or people doing work that you need, and then sort of build communities or build engagement through people, build engagement through people doing the work. Because I think sometimes LGBT organisations are looking for recruitment or trying to recruit, but they always go to the same place, which is typically or might obviously be white.
Yes.
I think there are sort of black and queer organisations that do have resources, that do have people that they would need, but then they aren't gone to them, they've gone to other people. So I think Cocoa Butt Club, for example, has like a whole website dedicated to sort of queer artists and queer performers that people could use if they're looking for to program their own nights or program their events. And there are resources like that, even Gaysians, that have people, if you're looking for non-white or the obvious places you go to Gaysians to sort of find Asian or queer Asian artists or people. That'd be right.
So what you're saying is literally like attracts like. So for example, me being South Asian and trans, if I'm looking for friends or support network, I will instantly look for South Asian trans people. So what do you think, I know you talked about it specifically, and maybe Asha, you want to pick up on this, is what more can LGBT organisations do to sort of reach out to people of colour?
You know what,
because our communities can be deemed as being hard to reach. So what more can be done to bridge that gap, or do you disagree with that term?
Yeah, I definitely disagree. I don't think we're hard to reach in the slightest. I think it's just, I think they don't really want us. I think that's where it kind of goes down to, really, which is why there needs to be organisations like the ones that you guys do, because it's like, even if it comes to any kind of event that they throw or something like that. I'm a music guy, and it comes down to none even the music seems like it's for me. Nothing ever seems like it's for me. So, I wouldn't want to go to that. And if they really wanted in these other in the broader scopes of the white LGBT plus community events, if they wanted it to be more broad and to include all of the minorities, then they would kind of do something. But it's not really hard to know what we like. And I think that's not even a thing for them to say, oh, I don't know how to reach black people. What hair? It's obvious.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
How do you feel about that?
I totally agree. I totally agree. I think people are, there's
there are queer people of color out there, but this is why it's important to understand, like, people sort of, I think this is why conversations like this are so important, because you have to understand that the experiences of queer people of color, it's not just external from like the heterosexual community, it's even worse from inside the sort of queer community.
Yeah.
Particularly obviously in Western society, where predominantly you have white LGBTQ communities controlling the narrative. And then when you have queer spaces, it's like you still get called like, oh, you're so like exotic. You know, that shouldn't be happening in a queer space. Queer spaces aren't safe, and that's because, or safe or accommodating with like music by, you know, queer people of color, etc., because people just don't want to do the work, I think.
Yeah, obviously queer people of colour want to listen to different styles of music and be involved in, you know, I guess owning their spaces within the larger queer community. Yeah. Reeta, you obviously get a lot of Gaysians contacting you, right? What contribution would you make to a mainstream LGBT organisation that asks you, look, what more can we do to be inclusive and diverse and attract more Gaysians, for example?
I mean, I think we have, like, I agree with you, but I think, Shahmir, but I think at the same time we have to be proactive. Like, we have to start our own movements, we have to do our own thing, you know. We have to show that we can work together, that we can align, that we can build stuff, that we have talent that we want to promote, and we kind of have to do it at a grassroots level, right? And then from there, then everything else follows. You know, I write for Diva magazine as well, and you know that's a predominantly white platform, right? But there, you know, Lady Phil from UK Black Pride writes for them too, and there's a diverse range of writers, and there's real effort from that publication. But I got that gig because I reached out to them, you know. So I think we have to be proactive, and I got the gig because I'd already started a movement. I was already doing things. So I think it's a two-way thing. I think. Agree. But
Can I just say, Reeta?
Yeah.
You're confident. You're great. You've obviously reached out to Diva magazine and created platforms for yourself. But does every person of colour have to do that to get their break or their gig?
No, totally. I think, organisations the system is inherently, you know, racist. The system is inherently patriarchal. You know, we know this. So we're and inherently, you know, homophobic. We know all of these things. And we're dealing with all of these intersections. The more of those intersections there are at play, the harder I think it is. But that's the state of it. I don't have any solutions, unfortunately, other than get involved in movements that are already happening. You know, turn up to things, support things, share things. Think about where you're spending your money. Think about the economy. Think about spending your money in POC spaces, queer POC spaces, women's spaces. And then from there, I think things come. We start our own movements. But yeah, the system's, well, I'm not going to say the word because I'm not allowed to, but begins with F.
Well, thank you again, panelists, for that contribution, especially to that topic about contributing to diversity and inclusion when it comes to LGBT plus organisations. Now, we've got some comments coming in on social media, on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube, where currently this is going out live. And in the true essence of diversity, I just want to say that I am visually impaired, and I've been provided with bold writing in my iPad, but unfortunately it's getting stuck. So who wants to read for me?
I will.
Yeah,
thanks for it. I'm all fighting to do it.
All responsibility.
First it was Hakeem,
So
how do I do this?
So press at the top, swipe up, and then read.
Okay. Hang on. Okay, it's not stuck now.
Just literally just read it.
What, from the top?
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got this.
Okay, the first comment is, great to hear BAME experiences of coming out straight up from the panel tonight. Coming out never stops and it's always hard, but such a lack of understanding of how hard it is for people of colour. That's something that needs to change. So yeah, that's someone just commenting. Next one's about dating. It's a question about dating. Have you ever fallen victim of being someone's preference?
Wow. Okay. I know you said something, Shahmir, about being exotic.
Yeah.
And that's something that comes up for me as well as a,
I think that's
a trans
happening
woman
every
of colour.
person of color.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you think we are I don't know, eroticized or, you know, exoticized?
All the time. I mean, like, I'm like 6'3", like, and a black guy. That's just like what people keep on talking about. It's like, allow my life, please. Like, you'll be inside a club and then a white girl will come up to you and you can see the look in the face. Like, that look, and it's like, please. But they also might think I'm a bit dangerous, and then they might even want drugs from me. There's loads of different levels of how they can look at you and what they could want from you. Like, it's crazy.
And do you guys, have you ever fallen victim of sexual racism on apps or in the clubs or wherever? Like, I mean, terms like BBC are so out there. Terms like, you know, on apps, there's so much sexual racism. I don't know if anyone here has fallen victim to that. Or has, you know, do you guys know of experiences within the queer community of people of colour that experience racism?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. Yeah. With when it comes to, you know, what is it? No chocolate, no curry, no rice, and all of that malarkey. But yeah, like, I think, but for me, see, this is what I've learned. This is from like criticism and understanding, is that I'm light skinned. I don't look, well, I look more Arab than I look like Pakistani.
Yeah.
I mean, to Pakistanis, I look Pakistani.
Yes.
But to everyone else, I look Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
But for South Asian men, like all of my South Asian men, it's a whole different, like, it's a whole different ballgame. Like, it's sort of it's the opposite, but the sort of similar kind of sentiment of this hyper sexualization and hyper desexualization. Like, South Asian men, until Zayn Malik came along, have been hyper desexualized. Like, they were constantly there. Constant messages that I have gotten.
But then, do you feel that Zayn Malik is the right type of?
No,
brown?
he's not, because again, he's light skinned and is, you know, he's half white. So like, though he does look Pakistani, I will stand by that. But you know, like, it's the sort of value of how sexy someone is based on like
how light or dark
they are. So colorism, obviously, but also like within spheres such as Grindr, all these apps, or even in clubs, like it's like I'm into white guys, and that problem is in like both queer people of color and queer sort of white people. You know, so but yeah, I just think it's like.
True.
Reeta, do you think it's different for girls?
I think it is different for girls. Yeah, I think it's more subtle. So I think with my experiences of being in relationships with white women, I would say that it's a different experience to dating like women of colour or people of colour. I'd say that.
Spill it.
No, I can't say it. Okay. I can't say it. But it's a different. I would say that it's a more limiting experience for me as a person.
Okay. Do you think it's easier to date
being with someone that is not a person of colour?
Do you feel like to translate stuff or translate experiences or check?
Yeah, I think it's about. There's a certain amount of. Okay, so we're outnumbered. We're a minority here, right? So, in a relationship, I think that I can feel like a minority in a relationship with one person. You know.
Wow. Okay.
That's it.
Well, I mean, colonized is what I was going to say.
You
can say it. You can say it. It's fine.
Say it with your chest.
Yeah. It can feel like that, you know. Whereas I feel that with the person of color, that's not an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Am I on my own with that? Or like
No, you're not.
I totally.
Okay.
As a trans woman of color, I get. What's the word? I'm put on a pedestal, I'm designed in a certain way, and it's because of my colour. It's because people expect me to do certain things that white women wouldn't do. And you are sexualised. You know, you're sexualised for your colour, and then on the flip side, you get those people that would not date you in a million years because of your colour.
And I think it just gets hard because some people like it. And I think that's what makes it harder for other people when I'm just like, no. And you've got like, there's a strong force of ethnic minorities that actually enjoy being sexualized in that kind of way. So, and I think that is just what makes it harder. Just like going forward, like what am I to do? Because it's not like we can say, oh, stop it, when some people like it. This is their thing. This is their fetish, isn't it? So I think that's where it gets a bit more difficult as well.
Sure. Thank you for your openness, by the way, especially with a question like that. Okay, so our last point that we want to talk about is how do we celebrate being BAME in the LGBT plus community and support each other? So, for example, as well as Pride in London, we have occasions and events like UK Black Pride. There's all different types of prides up and down the country. But how do we celebrate being BAME within the LGBT plus community? Do we need to celebrate it?
Yeah, definitely we need to. And I think that, UK Black Pride exists for a really important reason. Many of the reasons that we've discussed, right? It's about representation and visibility, and it's a different type of space to other Pride events because it's private and it's closed off. And so, I would love the idea that this year, you could, as a South Asian person, you could bring members of your family along, and they could meet some of your queer friends and their parents, and your mum gets to meet another mother of a queer kid, and it's like they're not so lonely and they're connecting. So I think these spaces are really important because culturally we are coming from different places which aren't homogenous, right?
Yeah.
But are different to the generalised experience in this country. So I think it's really important that we have those celebrations as well.
Yeah. So it's really important.
Yeah, it's mad, because I mean, I've been going to Black Pride for good 10 years now, and through that time, it's been in loads of different places, and it seems like to me, although now it's got a lot bigger, and a lot more people come. The vibe is amazing, especially last year, but what I've noticed is that it's got more separate from London Pride, and what I really just want to see is in that parade, London Pride, this massive BAME section that's going through that parade, blasting out our music, dancing, drinking, having our time with everyone else. I kind of not really feeling the separation.
Can I just say, would you rather, in Pride in London, in the parade, would you rather have a BAME section, or would you like to see BAME people scattered throughout the parade? I
mean, but I think that should happen anyway and will happen because we like different stuff and people can go anywhere they want. And it doesn't need to be something where, just because this section is dedicated to the BAME, that you have to stay there and you have to be there. You can go anywhere you want to go, but it'll be nice to know that there is somewhere for you to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's and I think that's the nice part that's missing from London Pride. I still go, I still have fun, but that part is definitely missing for me. And every time I go, I think to myself, you know what, I wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Hakeem? Do you feel, Pride can be more inclusive?
Yeah, also, I mean, I know this is what we're doing today, but I think also there's a lot of focus on Pride and a lot of, as a queer, that's the only thing to do. I think there's loads of people doing work or writing great books or telling great stories or things that we can celebrate as well. Even from The Colour Purple to Loverman to there's loads of books and art being made.
Yeah.
And I think, archiving that sort of Ruckus has an archive. And there's other people who have done stuff that we don't know about and we don't celebrate at all or don't really acknowledge. I think that's how I would like to celebrate being BME and queer, is just to sort of celebrate people who have done stuff and inspire people to continue to do stuff.
Brilliant. And what about you, Shahmir? Do you fancy seeing a Bollywood dance troupe on the main stage at London Pride?
Why not? Actually, funny enough, last year was the first time I went to a Pride. Obviously, I wasn't out to my family, but it's the first time I went to Pride, and then went to UK Black Pride. And I think, was it Spice and Wizkid performed or something? I don't know. But it was the most liberating experience to see so many. It's the same now. Since then, I've gone to Pussy Palace, etc. And like it was the most liberating experience to see so many people of color, like to not feel like other in a space like that. So I don't actually know. Like I don't know if it's better to have it like. Obviously, it's great to have it all together.
I know, I want both. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I want it all.
Yeah.
Like this. I'm not gonna like just because I was saying this. Yeah, that's what I want for London Pride.
Yeah.
But what Black Pride is doing, like without a shadow of a doubt, is amazing.
No, I agree.
And that should definitely continue. And I will be going. Like that. Yeah.
So what basically UK Black Pride should be on London Pride as well as have UK
No. I like the day after. The day after works. But the day after work. But just I'm talking about the parade part. If there was just a bit of like colour in the parade.
Yeah.
I mean, there is. I mean, UK Black Pride march as part of the Pride Parade.
Yes.
As do Gaysians, you know, so we're there, but it's not that diverse. Let's face it, we know that. Like,
and that's why we're here to bring more colour into Pride. And we are coming to the end of this discussion, unfortunately. But I just want to literally just go around and any final points that you guys have. Actually, what I suggest is basically, what are the most positive things about being both BAME and LGBT? And while you guys think, I'll give mine. One of the best things about being LGBT and BAME is that being on an intersection of two identities, you have the choice to take the best of both worlds, put them together, and just have the most amount of fun in your life. And it really is a privilege, actually, to be intersectional. So, yeah, that's my closing point. Who wants to go next? Go on, Reeta.
I'd echo that. You know, I think that it is a journey of, life is a journey of discovering ourselves and, you know, connecting with different facets of our identity. And the more that we connect with that and share that and celebrate that openly, I think the happier we are. So yeah, for me, it's the case of always exploring that and journeying with that, and then just trying to grow. And I think, I love being Asian and I love being queer. It's like it's two pretty cool things, I reckon.
Brilliant.
I love learning and growing up, being black and gay is like has really helped me like see so much and understand so much about myself, and to think of a life where where I don't have the opportunity to learn this much about myself is unthinkable. So I'm really appreciative of who I am and what I've been through.
Yeah. Hakeem?
Nice.
Yeah, exactly what you said. I think, being able to sort of, have the best of both worlds is fantastic.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And last but not least,
I echo the same points. Like being LGBT and going through that struggle of being a person of color, I think allows you to embrace yourself in a much deeper way than you could ever have. Like it. So yeah, I think it's great. Like yeah.
Thank you, Shahmir, and thank you to the rest of the panelists for such a brilliant contribution to this week's topic of discussion. Please join us next week, same time, same day, Thursday, 7:30, for another Pride in London live session. Good night from us.